Hong Kong's government is working on a legislative amendment that would bar foreign lawyers from sensitive political cases. This comes after Beijing handed down a legal interpretation that gives Hong Kong's leader the power to prevent foreign lawyers from taking part in national security trials. Current leader John Lee requested the interpretation last month. That was just as pro-democracy media mogul Jimmy Lai was due to go on trial for offenses under the Beijing-imposed national security law. The government opposed Lai's choice of barrister, the prominent UK human rights lawyer Timothy Owen. Lee took the matter to Beijing after Hong Kong's highest court rejected the government's objections. For more on the implications of this ruling, Ryan Kilpatrick spoke with lawyer and rights activist Kevin Yam.
How does this ruling from the National People's Congress Standing Committee affect judicial independence and the rule of law in Hong Kong?
Ultimately, it is a rule of law issue, because what it is saying is that the chief executive of Hong Kong and more widely the National Security Committee set up under the National Security Law have powers to deem things to fall under the remit of national security and then make directions on what needs to be done about it. And that includes situations in relation to court cases, and that their decisions and their directions and any certificates that they issue under this are not subject to any legal challenge. So basically what we're saying is that we've now got a political leadership that can now just decide whatever they think is national security and deem it as such, and then they can essentially rule by decree. They can overrule the courts, they can overrule the legislature, they can overrule anything, really. And so fundamentally, that breaks the rule of law in a very big way.
What about the right to choose legal representation that one wants? This ruling comes after some big changes to the legal aid system in Hong Kong. So what is the state of the right to counsel there?
The reality is that even on this very important fundamental question of the right to legal representation, the Hong Kong government has been chipping away at it. So there used to be a system, and there still is in a way, a system of legal aid where people who couldn't afford to hire their own lawyers can, subject to a number of rules, get the government to give them some financial support towards getting their own lawyer. But now legal aid system and so on, they're now saying that, well, it's got to be, essentially, it's got to be the lawyers of our choice. Now, this combined with the latest inclination of the Hong Kong government to say, no, you're not going to we're not going to let you just choose whatever counsel you want for national security cases. We might put in various rules around that. That, in a way, flies in the face of the fundamental right to choose your own lawyers, and it's very, very worrying.
Ostensibly, this ruling only affects national security related cases, but do you think that there are wider implications that affect the integrity of the whole system and even non-national security, non-political cases as well?
I think a lot of focus, and in fact the government wants it to be so, is a focus on the idea that this interpretation is all about how they're restricting the right to legal representation in national security cases. But if you look at the actual ambit of the interpretation, basically any policy area which the National Security Committee deems to fall under national security remit, they can deem it as such, and then they can make directions on what they think needs to be done about it, and everyone else has just got to follow that without challenge. So what's to stop at national security cases? What's to stop at litigation? We can look at any policy area. We can look at education. We can look at financial regulation. We can look at the regulation of professions. You name it. The sky's the limit for the National Security Committee.
That was Ryan Kilpatrick speaking with lawyer Kevin Yam.